This is Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, episode number 145. Today is the third episode in our three-part True Healthcare Leader series. Today we focus on being personally aligned. Don't miss it. Welcome back to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. This is the only podcast that shows you how to leverage Polarity intelligence, an essential competency for healthcare leaders, and the missing logic in healthcare, so you can create healthy, healing organizations and become a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader.
We are your hosts, Tracy Christofferson and Michelle Trosett. We've been best friends and colleagues for over 30 years. And during that time, we coached healthcare leaders across North America around how to create healthy, healing organizations.
Today, we coach healthcare leaders and leadership teams to live thriving, resilient, and balanced lives, combat burnout, and create the best places to give and receive care.
This podcast is for the unsung hero of healthcare, the healthcare leader. We want you to know we see you and we'll be here for you each week. In this podcast, we're going to challenge healthcare's industry norms, flip limiting beliefs, and share proven strategies so you can be your best self at work and at home, live and lead intentionally, and experience well-being and joy.
We are glad you are here and look forward to sharing the journey with you. If you aren't totally convinced this podcast is for you, just listen to a few episodes and convince yourself.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're back again on the airwaves, just kind of bringing our brilliance, aren't we?
Yeah, I like that. We're bringing our brilliance.
Yeah, feeling sassy today. Kind of, it's a brand new freaking year. I don't know when you're going to be listening to this, but for us right now, it's a brand new year and everything's looking pretty darn bright, actually.
Yes, it is. It is. Exciting times.
And it might be just maybe because of what we're going to talk about today that we might feel that way. You think?
I think so. I think it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. So being a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader is possible. And today this is our third part in a three-part series on how to be a thriving, resilient, unstoppable, or true healthcare leader. And we've been sharing with you kind of the elements of each of the pillars in our Dynamic Balance Effect framework that we use when we work with healthcare leaders. And so if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, episode 143 was Mindful Choices. Episode 144 was Polarity Intelligence. And of course, today, 145, you're the lucky dog that's here listening. You're going to get an earful about personal alignment. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about that and why that makes us so happy.
Yes. Why that makes us happy, and then why the combo is so awesome. So last week when we talked about mindful choices and polarity intelligence, we really brought out how the two together, that combo, helped you live with intention. Because of all the elements that live within those two different pillars. And today we're going to talk about how polarity intelligence and personal alignment together, they help bring out wisdom, and how personal alignment and mindful choices help leaders with grit. Now, I don't know a healthcare leader today that couldn't use a little grit.
Yeah, well, you'll become pretty gritty once you do this.
Yeah, pretty gritty. And with personal alignment, it's living on purpose and aligning your actions with the essence of who you really are. And that just feels really good when that happens.
Yeah.
It's what it's all about, right?
Well, it's kind of the essence of being your best self. Right?
It is. It's core to it. So there's different elements that we've learned. We're going to be sharing that with you today. So in our last episode, not our last episode, in this episode, excuse me. I'm getting ahead of myself or behind myself. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Whatever. Just keep going. So
in this episode, we're going to talk about what helps you be personally aligned? What are those things that you can do that help you feel personally aligned? And what we've learned about it personally, Tracy and I, we've been joined at the hips for over 30 years. We've learned quite a bit about personal alignment.
Yeah. It's something you're always learning.
Yes.
Right? You're always learning.
Yeah.
We're not masters at it. We're doing pretty darn good, but we're not masters. Nobody is, right? You just keep going, keep learning.
Yeah. And then we're also going to be focusing on, what we're learning from others during these incredible times and what are the patterns that are emerging as well. Because, that's how life works. Things change, things shift, new things happen. And what are we learning that we need to know now about personally aligned that maybe it wasn't the case 20 years ago? So those are some of the things we're going to be talking to you about today.
Yeah. Well, an alignment changes as the context of your life changes.
Yes.
So this is a fluid thing, right? Just because you get yourself aligned once doesn't mean you're going to stay that way without any kind of help or support, right? So let's just be clear on that, folks.
That's right. Just like your tires, every now and then you got to get it realigned.
Exactly. There you go. There you got that little shimmy going on, you got to take care of that. So, and I think there's a lot of shimmying going on right now to speak of that. A lot of tires misaligned, so to speak. And what we've been hearing from healthcare leaders, really feeling conflicted, like torn, right, between things that they value highly in their personal life, their professional life, and caring for themselves and caring for others, and just feeling this constant tug of war and tension, right? And they feel conflicted because they want to give attention to both aspects of their life. And we talked a little bit about that in the last episode. We talked about some of the polarities that are at play. But, we're also hearing these conflicted healthcare leaders. If you're one of those, you probably feel underappreciated, maybe even not recognized or acknowledged for all of what you've been doing or are doing right now. You don't know where you're going, right? Like you get caught up in what's happening so much around you. You can't see beyond today. You can't see beyond all of the competing priorities and the things that you need to address. You don't even know which direction you're headed in because you're just stuck in the now, right? The other is you may even be feeling or experiencing some moral distress because of this tension and this tug within yourself, right? And then, you're more focused maybe on your weaknesses or things that you're not doing so good right now, rather than the strengths that you have and the ways that you can leverage those strengths. And, you may have some habits that are not really supporting what you really want in your life and where you want to be in your life. And you just pretty much feel off track and like maybe life is off the rails, it's just kind of that wandering kind of feeling, right? Like just not certain, not centered, not solid. And that's what conflicted leaders have been feeling.
Right. And, that just presents that challenge. Well, confliction is a challenge. Who wants to be conflicted? It's an awful place to be in. And the longer that you're there, the worse it gets. So, and it can leave you in a place where you just feel like you're constantly treading water. You're keeping your head above water consistently. And that goes along with the exhaustion that healthcare leaders are facing right now. And it's easy just to settle. Like, I'm going to stay put. I call it stuck in the rut. You can get stuck in the rut. And so that's very challenging as well. And you can give up your personal power. That's what's at risk, is this settling and just giving up your personal power and not doing the realignment work, if you will.
Yeah. And because you always have choices. That's your power. That's your superpower, right? You always have choices. And when you can pause, the best thing you do is when you're in this situation, just pause, right? Just take some time to pause, do some reflection, evaluation of where you are, just really going inside. We get so caught up in everything that's happening outside of us, what's happening, in the environment, in your department, on your unit, wherever it is, right? You get so caught up in all the external stuff that you let go of that power, which is inside you, because you have the power inside you. And when you can reconnect, just reflect, get connected back to the things that matter to you, then that's the starting point to getting kind of back in alignment with the things that matter to you and with what the essence of who you really are. Is reconnecting. Nobody knows you like you do.
That's so true.
So you got to go inside to find that person again, right? To reconnect with them so that then you can align.
Mm-hmm. You have to go knock, knock, knock. Who's there right now?
Exactly. Anybody home? Sometimes I feel like I've left. I've had those experiences, Who is this person I'm looking at in the mirror, right? I don't recognize this person.
Yeah. So we have different pillar elements that sit within this personal alignment. And we want to just talk to you about some of those elements that we have found really make a difference. They help you with your personal alignment. And the first one is vision. And this is so important, again, right now with everything that's going on. And so we believe that now is a good time to cast a new vision of what you need to be a healthy, thriving, unstoppable leader. And part of it could be reaffirming a vision you've had for a long time, but it can change as well. And so it's really good to check in with what is my vision now for my life, my personal life, my professional life. And, the first step is to look at what it's like to be, what your vision is to have a thriving and resilient life. What would that look like for you and your family? And so that you really can become that unstoppable leader and to dream big. It's so important not to limit ourselves, that can stay stuck with limited vision. So it's really important. And we think it's really valuable to have vision statements. And so really take that time to reflect and think about, what do I see in my whole multidimensional self? Not just, in one element of my being, but family, spiritually, health-wise. There's different elements that we really can take a look at. And Tracy and I actually did a podcast episode on how to create a vision for your professional and personal life so you can thrive. And that was episode 116. So we wanted to call that out today as well so that you could listen to that with different tips and how we dream big and how we really bring these concepts to true leaders.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes thinking about writing a vision can seem daunting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Can be like, oh my gosh, I like a vision for my life. Are you kidding me? But it's a baby step. And like Michelle said, there's components. So just write one statement for each component in your life. And there you go. You got your vision, right? It doesn't have to be a daunting task, or it can be very, very, succinct and it can be short-term vision too. If you don't feel like you can see very far beyond where you are, then just start with a shorter term vision. 6 months from now, here's where I want to be, right? Like it doesn't have to be the next 10 years or 5 years or even to the end of the year. If you just can't go there yet, right? Like go where you can.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And another element of this is really purpose. So, in order to be aligned, you have to be clear on what is my purpose? Like, why am I here? What is it that gets me out of bed every single day and moves me into action, right? Without some sense of purpose, I wouldn't get out of bed. I don't know about you. But it is the reason you get up. It's the reason you're here. And again, this can seem really, a purpose statement can seem really overwhelming, but it really is just connecting inside, not overthinking it. Connect with your heart and just say, why am I here? Be silent, let it come. And write down the first thing that comes to you. Mm-hmm. Just start with something to get reconnected, to get aligned. Some people, their purpose is related to their work. Other people, it's related to other things, right? Whatever it is for you is fine. Just don't try to overthink it. Just get something out there that you can start to realign with. And it can morph over time. Purposes can change based on the context of your life, right? And an example is for us is to help, healthcare leaders live dynamically balanced lives and reach their full potential. That would be an example of, what element of our purpose in the work that we do.
Mm-hmm. And of course, to be personally aligned, it's really important to know your strengths, right? And to know yourself, to know how you're wired, because it's like then you're going with the flow, where you're not fighting to swim up the river the wrong way. It's like, so it's important to take the time to do the discovery of what your innate strengths are. And we're a big believers in leading with strengths is so, so helpful and just really key to being a true leader as well. And, so there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And there's a lot of different tools in our toolbox that we use with leaders. Strength Finders for leaders is a big one, but we also do DISC and Myers-Briggs. The Enneagram has been a lot of fun to learn about and to see how leaders, what their types are for the Enneagram. And it makes a difference when you can then just be aware of that, lean into it. And then it also helps as a leader to know your team members or your family members, because then when it comes to having that thriving life, you'll know where to tap in with that too. And, Tracy and I just, we're opposite in every single one of those. And that's one of our superpowers.
Exactly. Lean into it, man.
We lean into it.
That's right.
We lean into it.
Exactly. And I think too, when you got to tread water, and there are times where you need to tread water, knowing your strengths helps keep you in the water. It helps keep you from going down.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And, like we said earlier, sometimes you're having a hard time seeing beyond today, right? But your strengths can help you do that, right? When you think about your strengths, or when you're focused on your weaknesses, right? Think about, well, how can I leverage a strength to get over this, right? So it's lots of ways to use those. A really, really important, critical tool. The other is setting goals. Mm-hmm. Now, this is another one that, some people have struggled with over the last few years with the pandemic and everything, is how can I set a goal when I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? I'm just trying to get through today. But goals are really important, and writing them down is even more important. And again, this doesn't have to be a goal for the end of the year. It can just be a goal for the end of the week, if that's as far as you can go, right? But write it down. And there's a lot of reasons to do that. And one is it brings you clarity on what you want. Unless you write it down, it's just a wish, a hope, right? And so when you write it down, it becomes real. That's a lot of the work that we do with healthcare leaders. They are like, oh my gosh, getting this on paper is the most important thing I've ever done, right? Because it's wishy-washy when you don't have it on paper. So clarity on what you want. The other is it helps you overcome resistance, right? Again, it's a motivating force. It gives you something to look forward to and to move beyond the current realities or the resistances that you might have. The other is it motivates you to take action, right? It's inspirational. And so it's that, again, coupled with your purpose, is the thing that gets you out of bed, right? I'm going to make this happen. The other is it helps you to prioritize your actions. So if you don't have goals, then you may be taking a lot of actions that aren't getting you anywhere near where you want to really go. So you want to make sure, that you, when you have these goals, then you can say, well, if I prioritize my actions, I'm going to be more likely to achieve that goal. So it kind of helps you stay the course. It also helps you say no, or to recognize what you're saying yes to. So it's both of those things, right? Kind of filter out those other opportunities. So start really thinking about, if this isn't getting me towards my goal, do I need to do it? Mm-hmm. Right? So it gives you that opportunity to say no, and it enables you to see and celebrate action. So when you have a goal, you can actually see the progress towards it. You can see what's happening and where you're moving towards. Without a goal, you're just kind of drifting. It helps you prevent that drift, right? Or even sliding backwards, right, in your life. Keeps you focused on that purpose and the outcomes. The other is there's a couple different kinds of goals. So there's a couple things to think about. There's achievement goals, which many of us are probably very familiar with, right? And that really is any kind of work or project that's leading towards a concrete outcome, objective that you want to achieve. It's definable in the scope. It's limited in its time elements. A habit goal is really the habits that we want to establish. It helps us get to something that we desire, right? It's kind of definable. It has some limited time frame and scope to it too, but habits might be exercise habits or sleep habits, to go to bed at the same time every night, as an example. It leads to a bigger outcome, right? Your health, when you are more rested or get more sleep, as an example. But it can be a habit goal versus like, I want to finish my PhD. Okay, that's an achievement goal, right? So just kind of the difference between the two. And I think one of the things that really help us, and we've used over the years, and I think a lot of people are familiar with SMART goals. That's probably not something new to many people. But a SMART goal, right? S is it's specific in nature. M is it's measurable. And A is actionable. R is got a little element of risk. So it's pushing you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And, T is time keyed, right? So there's a time frame for the goal to be achieved. And then one of our previous coaches, Michael Hyatt, he kind of added a little addition to that, and he added the ER. So it not only needs to be smart, but it can be smarter. In other words, E is for exciting. So you want that thing that's going to raise your energy, that's really going to, keep you motivated, keep you excited and energized. And then relevant. So it needs to be relevant to your context, to the time of your life, to the season of your life. Because if you set a goal that's not relevant to that, you're not probably going to achieve it. So those are a couple of additions that we have found to be very, very helpful in setting our goals. And then I think too, the magic is in the journey. So it's also, it's really about who you're becoming, how you're progressing, and it's about chunking things down so that you can get there, right? Sometimes when we have a big goal in front of us, it's harder to see that progress. When you chunk things down and make the goal smaller and smaller, then you can achieve the littler goals, which are leading to the big goal. So that's another big thing. And I think it's about who you become in the process of going after that goal, right? Really important.
Yeah, it is very much so. And Tracy mentioned habit goals, but another element in our personal alignment is habits themselves. And habits are huge. We've learned a lot about habits over the years. And just to define it for all of our listeners, it's an acquired behavior pattern regularly followed until it becomes almost involuntary. And there's so much about habits that we are not even aware of because it's really about your brain. And some habits are repeated automatically, like tying your shoes, and you don't even think about it. But the reptilian brain is there to protect us. So there's a lot of things that we do that control our habits that we probably haven't thought about from that perspective before. And there's, I kind of grew up just thinking of habits as good and bad, and that's it. But habits are so much more than that. It's actually what we do, how we think. Our thought habits have tremendous impact over our lives. So we do a lot of work with healthcare leaders on even raising that to their consciousness to be thinking about their habits. And being aware of what they are, tracking habits, and making their desired habits easier. And there's a lot of habit hacks that we've learned about so that you can really lean into the positive habits and stay away from those that maybe are not aligned with your purpose. They're not who you really want to be. So a lot of that is just bringing that to a conscious level so that you can really make different choices again related to that. Lots about habits.
Yeah. Well, you live your habits. So if you don't like your life, change your habits.
Yeah.
Because it's the truth. You live your habits, conscious or unconscious. That's why they're so huge, as Michelle would say.
They're huge.
Yeah, it's just really important. One of the biggest lessons we've learned. So little call to action for you. So a couple things for you just to ask yourself as you're thinking about personal alignment in our conversation today. And the first is, are my actions aligned with my purpose and what I really want? So when we think about those habits, when we think about the things that you're doing, are those actions really aligned with the things you want most? And with the reason you're here and your purpose. Another is, do I know my strengths and am I leveraging them? So just really gaining that understanding and then leaning into them at every opportunity really helps with that alignment, right? It helps you achieve that purpose and those goals that you're setting out. And then the goal setting, right? Just identify what is one goal I could take. right? That would move me closer, get me more in alignment personally, in a personal alignment with what I really, really want and who I am. So what is like one goal that you could set that would move you in that direction? And, how are my habits supporting me? And what outcomes am I getting from those habits? I had some pretty bad habits over the holidays that I've had to overcome. So, you just got to really, just step back and think about what are the things that I do repeatedly that maybe aren't serving me. And what new habits could I engage in that would help me?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And putting it in the frame of how is this serving me, I think is really helpful. Yeah. And, there's a lot at risk if you don't take the time to really think about these things and do the call to actions that Tracy's talking about, because you'll end up moving through life without direction and, unaware of the things we talked about today on this podcast, and unaware of your strengths and not utilizing all of your given gifts that you have, and recognizing that habits may have a negative effect. When Tracy said you are your habits, that's a big sentence. So to really think about what do I do every day? How is that impacting what I'm seeing as far as outcomes and my alignment? And then again, you can just settle and letting go of your true purpose. So there's a lot at risk if you don't do this reflection.
Yeah, and we're talking about thriving, not settling, right? So It takes a little bit of activity. But when you do that, just think about this. Now, just pause and think, okay, so if I got personally aligned, then what would I be experiencing? What does that look like and feel like to a thriving leader who is personally aligned? Well, the first thing is you're very clear on that vision. You've got a very clear vision of what you want and where you're headed. You know why you're here. You're working and living on purpose and in alignment with that vision of what you want. Your non-negotiables. So there are just some things, right? The things that you can put boundaries around, the things that this is what matters to me. This is not negotiable. And I think that is a really, really important aspect of being aligned, because when you don't know what your non-negotiables are, that's when you start to drift. You get off track. You're doing things that aren't in alignment. Your habits aren't in alignment. It all can kind of start to unravel. So really knowing, based on your purpose, based on your vision, your strengths, what are your non-negotiables in your life? What are the things that you are true to and will stay true to? And the habit piece is what makes life easy. Mm-hmm. So when you align your habits with your vision, your purpose, your strengths, the things that you really want, your goals, then all the actions become so much easier because they're unconscious and repeated. So you don't have to make choices every time. You're just acting from that place of habit, and it makes everything so much less effortful. Mm-hmm. Is that a word?
Yeah.
It becomes effortless. Let's just put it that way. Easy and effortless. That's what I'm all about. I want that.
Yeah. And we've seen this in action. We have a coaching client who's accomplished some really major goals, and she's now in the pursuit of an exciting position change. But her first step was really getting clear on her personal purpose and her greatest desire, what it was for herself, and thinking about just how important the fit was for the future organization to be well aligned, for her to be personally aligned, but also for her to be aligned with the organization. And that really helped her get clear on her non-negotiables. And this is someone that, just didn't get one job offer, like multiple ones have come. But when you're personally aligned, you can be patient until the right position comes along. And it's made her decisions a lot easier. And she truly has demonstrated intention, wisdom, and grit through the process, because she's not settling. And she's set this vision now, and it's very exciting. And she knows it's going to find her, and it's exciting. And something big is going to happen.
Well, Well, yeah, because she put it out there. That's what she wants. Right?
Yeah.
But I love it. This is what non-negotiables are.
That's right.
Like, and not being afraid to stand for them, not being afraid to stand true to the things that are not negotiable, because that's the only way you're going to get the life that you want. That's when you're going to thrive. That's when you're going to feel resilient and unstoppable, because all of these things are aligned for you.
Yeah. And developing habits that are normally way out of your comfort zone, but recognizing that that's okay. It's good to do that.
Well, they will be for a little while, but then they'll become unconscious and they'll be just like you've always done it.
Yep.
That's where you're striving to get to.
That's
so you gotta feel a little resistance and a little pain to start with, and then just keep pushing forward, right?
Yep.
So guess what? This is the last episode in the series, in the 3-part series of our round Becoming a Thriving, Resilient, Unstoppable Leader using the Dynamic Balance Effect framework. And if you haven't listened to all 3, we strongly suggest that you go back and listen to the others. So it's episode 143, 144, and then this one is 145. And just want to thank you again for being with us, for listening to the series and to our podcast, the Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. We just love being with you every week, and would love to hear any insights, ahas, takeaways from today, or really any of the 3 episodes in this series. So
drop us a note.
Make a comment.
That means
make a comment. Go ahead, Michelle. I'll wait while you do your thing. Go ahead.
Drop a comment, drop a note.
I think she wants it in the comment section below. If you're looking at us on YouTube, or you can also drop a comment in one of our social media accounts as well, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. And just tag us #MissingLogic. And we'd love to hear what you learned, what your insights were, or just any takeaways that you had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's it for today. And as always, between now and next week, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you then.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, now a top-rated podcast for healthcare leaders. Please share this podcast with other healthcare leaders and anyone else you think would benefit. We are certain that if you found value in it, they will too. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And also, it would mean the world to us if you took a quick moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player. It helps to get the word out about our podcast and incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our podcasts. You can also follow us on our Missing Logic social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time.